Catherine takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Kent.
All our thoughts are with her beloved family, our royal family, at this moment of profound grief. This is a deep and private loss for them.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel that never fails to enthrall with its complex labyrinth of human dramas and royal traditions. We are about to enter a time that has startled the world of royal watchers. A mixture of deep grief and little changes in power that might reshape alliances inside the palace. Imagine this. As the royal family comes together to say goodbye to Catherine Worley, the Duchess of Kent, a woman whose calm grace touched generations. The mournful echoes of Westminster Cathedral on September 16, 2025. But in the midst of the silent prayers and black veils, something remarkable happened. During the liturgy, King Charles made a symbolic gesture by giving Catherine, the Princess of Wales, the authority of the Kents. With her distraught husband, the Duke of Kent, sitting close by, his eyes filled with grief, it was their realization of the late Duchess's last wish. With poise and reverence, Catherine took the lead in important aspects of the event, assuming a position previously associated with Queen Camilla, who was conspicuously absent from the seats. This was not merely an homage. It demonstrated Catherine's growing power and the profound faith that the highest-ranking officials had in her. To remain up to date on any royal revelations, hit the like button and subscribe before we break down this emotional roller coaster. To grasp the significance of this day, let's take a trip back in time. As the first Catholic requiem mass for a member of the royal family in modern times, the funeral itself was a momentous occasion. After decades of silent devotion, the Duchess, who was born Catherine Lucy Mary Worley in 1933, decided to become a Catholic in 2019, a decision that mirrored her sense of independence. Her death in Kensington Palace on September 4, 2025, at the age of 92, while surrounded by family, caused a stir within the establishment. The air was heavy with awe as the coffin borne by pallbearers beneath the cathedral's lofty arches came. Prince William and Catherine trailed after, their faces marked with symbolism, as King Charles led the mourners, his presence a resolute anchor. For days, rumors had been circulating regarding the small-scale nature of the services, but nobody had foreseen the personal honor that would boost Catherine's status in such a moving context. According to insiders, this was not an impulsive choice. It was the result of passionate discussions during the Duchess's last months, during which she stated her wish for Catherine to take on some duties associated with the Kent family name. When the time came, the 89-year-old Duke silently approved the changeover by nodding. This went beyond just mourning. It served as a link between generations and demonstrated how the monarchy is changing as a result of quiet, thoughtful decisions. We must first go back in time to the life of a woman who exemplified regal poise away from the scrutiny of everyday life in order to fully understand the significance of her burial. In 1961, Catherine Worley became a member of the royal family when she married Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, in a York Minster wedding that combined genuine warmth with aristocratic charm. She was accustomed to tradition, having been born into the Yorkshire aristocracy at Hovingham Hall. Her journey, however, had some interesting detours. Lady Worley prioritized substance above show, in contrast to many other royals who sought attention. In order to balance her responsibilities, she became a teacher at Kensington High School in London, which was unusual for her time. As a talented pianist and patron of the Royal Opera House, she frequently performed in private for charitable causes, demonstrating her love of music. But what really made her unique was her altruistic nature. Long before she became a royal standard, she traveled the world as a UNICEF ambassador and a Samaritan volunteer, fighting for the weak. As the years passed, Catherine Worley's role became less prominent due to health issues, including depressive episodes that she courageously discussed in public, shattering taboos in the royal community. She still continued to be an unwavering defender of the throne, dressing modestly when she attended public functions. There was more to her relationship with Catherine than formality. They were bonded by common patronages, such as Wimbledon, where Catherine's sympathetic approach to public service was reflected in Lady Worley's consoling presence for the players. According to insiders, the Duchess frequently praised Catherine's grace in her latter years, recognizing in her a kindred soul who might continue the Kent customs of silent service. The family was aware of this admiration. Tributes poured in as mourners filed into Westminster Cathedral. Anecdotes from those she affected and Pope Leo's letter complimenting her commitment to charity were read aloud at the Mass. In homage to Catherine Worley's subsequent beliefs, the service evoked centuries of Catholic liturgy with its Gregorian chants and incense-laden air. Her desire for Catherine to take charge of Kent-related patronages and domestic decisions, however, was a personal element hidden beneath the ritual, a position that would relieve the elderly Duke of some of his burdens. Grandeur was not the focus of this legacy. It was about giving the future to someone who knew how to strike a balance between responsibility and prudence. Lady Worley seemed to be directing the handoff from beyond as the organs grew. The royals learned resilience from the Duchess's life. She overcame personal tragedies such as the stillbirth of a child and the tragic drug-related death of her son in 1994 by turning her sorrow into activism. Her final request, which she shared with intimate associates, was to use Catherine, whom she considered to be the moral compass of the monarchy, to guarantee the continuation of the Kent branch. This prepared the ground for the emotional high point of the funeral, where custom and change came together in a way that fully honored her. Without exploring the Duke's steadfast relationship with his late wife, which endured for more than 60 years and through the ups and downs of royal life, no account of the Kent would be complete. Born in 1935 as King George V's grandson, Prince Edward has been a mainstay of the family ever since he assumed public duties following his retirement from the army in 1976. He embodied the spirit of the Commonwealth as the Queen's first cousin, representing her at independence ceremonies from Ghana to the Pacific Islands. His military experience, which included participation in the Cyprus conflicts of the 1960s, instilled a discipline that characterized his methodology. Gorgeous, modest, and loyal. However, at 89, he has begun to show signs of infirmity, as evidenced by recent public appearances in which he leans on canes, a far cry from the active colonel he once was. In the midst of royal turmoil, the marriage between the Duke and Duchess served as a calm fulcrum. They navigated issues such as their son's exile due to his Catholic marriage, which cost him succession rights, while raising 3 children, including the Earl of St. Andrews and Lady Helen Taylor. Throughout it all, Edward and Catherine Worley put on a unified front, their walks hand in hand by Kensington Palace serving as a testament to their unwavering love. The Duke was the primary mourner during the funeral, standing erect despite the obvious toll, with members of his family like Prince Michael of Kent at his sides, whom King Charles consoles with tenderness. According to people close to the couple, Catherine Worley and Edward had an open conversation about the future during her last weeks. Given his advanced age, the Duke granted her request and gave Catherine important authority. Catherine had been polite to him at their joint events, such as the 2025 VE Day celebration, where she greeted him affectionately. This was not a snap decision. A steward was needed for the Kent home, which had patrons in foreign relations, veterans affairs, and the arts. Catherine's early childhood and mental health portfolios were a fantastic fit. The Duke honored their common vision by attending the service and observing the handoff. The personal sorrow driving this change was highlighted as the Mass went on with psalm readings and eulogies honoring their combined charities. Throughout the proceedings, Edward gave Catherine a tiny nod that said a lot. A father's approbation extended to the guardian of the following generation. Royally speaking, this power includes representation at events the Duke is no longer able to attend and advisory positions on Kent-related issues. For him, it serves as a lifeline, enabling him to concentrate on his legacy while Catherine fills the void. Their relationship was cemented in that moment, transforming a day of loss into one of peaceful continuity. Buckingham Palace's announcement of the Duchess's passing on September 5, 2025, came as a soft wave, inspiring a flood of tributes that captured her subtle influence. The palace bustled with preparations in the days before the funeral, balancing royal etiquette with Catholic rites. The focus point was Westminster Cathedral, which was picked because of its religious significance. A small group of 500 people, including members of her extended family like the Gloucesters and Windsors, was allowed entry. Intimate rumors of the services were circulating, but the Kent's future was surrounded by deeper currents. Catherine became involved early on. Charai. She and William paid a secret visit to the Duke, where they discussed the Duchess's wishes based on letters she wrote in her last months and offered consolation. Her wish for Catherine to manage Kent, patronages, a trust resulting from their mutual respect, was expressed in these documents. Given the Duke's declining health, King Charles, who was briefed at family conferences, saw it as a means of bringing branches together. There was restraint in the lead-up. No elaborate processions, only moving vigils. arrivals from Prince Andrew, and Sarah Ferguson to Lady Sarah Kessie-Chattow were photographed by the media wearing solemn black, following customs of wearing veiled hats and mourning armbands. Under overcast skies, London mourned as September 16th broke. Following the tradition of Queen Elizabeth's funeral, the coffin was carried to the peal of bells draped with a plain pall. A floral memorial honoring Catherine Worley's passion for gardens was placed inside the nave. Catherine arrived with William, her poise a guiding light, wearing a fitted black coat and pearl earrings typical of the late queens. Camilla's absence due to sinusitis created more mystery, and her regrets were expressed in a royal statement. The emotional tone for the upcoming honor was set by Catherine's rise to fame. In order to prepare the audience for the unexpected, the services began with hymns she loved and a eulogy from a close UNICEF colleague. The gathered royals were bathed in ethereal light from the stained glass of the cathedral as their requiem service began. But as Catherine took the lead, everyone's eyes quietly shifted to her. She took part in the parade from a position close to the front, her slow, elegant movements reflecting the respect the event required. The service celebrated Catherine Worley's religion and was full of choral melodies and Latin incantations. However, Catherine was more than just an attendee. With a steady voice, she read a passage from Corinthians on love and endurance, comparing it to the Duchess's calm fortitude throughout her life. This was not a planned accident. It fulfilled the vision of the late royals and was a part of the planned transition. The atmosphere was intimate yet intense, according to insiders. As a silent cue amidst the incense, King Charles, sitting next to the Duke, glanced at Catherine. William was on her side. Their mutual composure is evidence of their collaboration. Family members' thoughts followed the Pope's statement praising Catherine Worley's humanitarian efforts, but Catherine's presence gently took center stage. Lady Eloise Taylor and other young relatives were comforted by her maternal and comforting touch. Rumors circulated about her high rank as the Eucharist, the service's high point, which Camilla may have occupied given her senior position. However, Catherine filled the vacuum in Camilla's absence with ease, leading prayers for the Kent legacy. Catherine's development was demonstrated by this leadership. She has persevered through health challenges and public responsibilities since her early days as Duchess of Cambridge. Like Lady Worley, she turned grief into purpose by embracing the role with deep reverence. Unaware of the impending discovery that would solidify her position in the family's changing hierarchy, the congregation stood for the last benediction as the service came to an end. Then, with the solemnity of a regal proclamation, the bombshell was dropped. King Charles stood to speak briefly, his comments measured yet impactful, as family members gathered for private contemplations halfway through the post-mass rituals. In direct deference to the intentions of the Duchess and Duke, he declared that Catherine would be granted Kent authorities, including patronages, household supervision, and representational responsibilities. The transition was completed when the Duke, who was there and in tears, gave Catherine a brooch from Catherine Worley's collection, a meaningful family heirloom. The Duchess wrote letters expressing confidence in Catherine's capacity to uphold the generous spirit of the Kents, and this deed, which was arranged in secret palace sessions, fulfilled those letters. In a monarchy where positions are passed down through the blood, the gesture's connotation was deep. This voluntary transfer demonstrated faith in merit. Photographers documented Catherine's respectful nod and subsequent kiss on the king's cheek and curtsy. According to sources, Charles saw it as bringing stability to the family, particularly given the Duke's advanced age. Leading Kent-related events, such as veterans' memorials, that support Catherine's causes is part of the authority. This was done to ensure that the Kent family's legacy would continue stress-free, not to seize power. There was a soft thunderclap as the moment reverberated throughout the cathedral. Catherine became noticeably taller. The royal gave her a symbol of confidence for her new duties. Though updated for today's royals, it mirrored historical changes such as the Queen Mother's roles. It was hard to overlook Queen Camilla's absence from the Duchess of Kent's funeral on September 16, 2025. A gap that threw extended shadows across Westminster Cathedral's solemn events. Her absence, which was officially explained as a case of sinusitis, caused royal watchers to speculate wildly, with rumors pointing to much more than a minor medical issue. It was anticipated that Camilla, whose public position as queen consort frequently overlapped with patronages relating to Kent, especially in the fields of the arts and charity, would be instrumental in commemorating Catherine's legacy. As a result, her absence increased Catherine's notoriety and gave the Princess of Wales the opportunity to assume the spotlight with uncontested poise. In addition to highlighting the symbolic significance of Catherine's increased power, this unanticipated gap also brought to light minor changes in the royal hierarchy, posing queries regarding priorities, alliances, and the future course of the monarchy. Camilla's health issues were real, according to insiders close to the palace, who also confirmed in a statement that her recuperation was given first priority in advance of a scheduled state visit to Australia later in September. They say there was no intentional exclusion. However, the timing stoked conjecture. It appeared unusual for Camilla to miss such a well-known family gathering, particularly one connected to the Kents, with whom she had a close relationship. Her few recent appearances were cited by some royal observers as evidence of a calculated retreat to make room for younger royals like Catherine. Others alluded to hidden conflicts, pointing out that Camilla's position as a senior royal has periodically conflicted with Wales's modernizing goals. In any case, her absence made it possible for Catherine to represent the Kent legacy without conflicting stories. It was a clear moment that seemed almost planned. There was more to this dynamic than one vacant pew. It was a reflection of more general royal family trends. Despite their contentious status, the attendance of individuals such as Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson demonstrated King Charles's dedication to maintaining family unity in times of loss. But what was most evident was the bond between Catherine and William. Their flawless coordination stands in contrast to previous family conflicts, such as those involving the Sussexes. Catherine is positioned as the operational and emotional center of the next generation by being promoted to supervise Kent's responsibilities. Trusted to steer the monarchy through difficult times, including the 2024 recovery of her own health. She serves as a link between the monarchy's illustrious history and its changing future because of her relationship with the Kents, which is based on a mutual appreciation of discretion and duty. Catherine's deft handling of her public image was again brought to light by the occasion of the burial. In contrast to Camilla, whose reign has occasionally been marred by historical scandals, Catherine is well known for being a personable yet powerful leader. From comforting younger royals to giving a moving reading, her leadership during the service demonstrated a maturity that matched the Duchess's own quiet power. This event solidified her as a unifying factor that could preserve the Kent's heritage while updating the monarchy's strategy. Catherine not only filled a void, but also redefined it by taking on a position that Camilla might have played, indicating a move towards a monarchy that values competence and compassion above strict formality. The wider ramifications are remarkable. Catherine's expanded duties imply a monarchy depending on her to maintain its branches as a result of the Duke of Kent's declining years and Camilla's selective commitments. Redistributing responsibilities to take into account age, health, and public expectations is the goal here, not marginalizing Camilla. Catherine's reputation as a pillar of trust is strengthened by the Kent's support from a branch that has been devoted to Queen Elizabeth II for a long time. With Catherine at the front of this quiet revolution, her ascent portends a future in which competence and connection will triumph over old hierarchies as the monarchy negotiates the demands of contemporary Britain for transparency and relevance. The echoes of Westminster Cathedral reverberate in the peaceful aftermath of the Duchess of Kent's funeral on September 16, 2020 at 20:55, marking not only the passing of a cherished monarch, but also a turning point in the life of Catherine, Princess of Wales. It is more than a formal handoff, as she poignantly accepts the Kent authorities conferred by King Charles. It solidifies her as a key player in a monarchy that is exploring new territory. This poignant yet purpose-filled moment highlights Catherine's rise as a custodian of legacy, charged with upholding the Kent family's unassuming commitment to service, while guiding the royal family towards a future that feels both contemporary and grounded. Catherine's new position is more than just a formality. Her own interests in mental health, early childhood, and worldwide outreach are well aligned with the duties associated with the Kents, including managing patronages in music, veterans affairs, and international organizations. Her support of mental health and her involvement with programs like the Royal Foundation reflect the Duchess's own dedication to causes over show. Catherine crosses generations by entering this area and ensuring that the Kent's tradition of discreet service endures. The goal is to enhance the Duchess's vision with a contemporary perspective, not to replace her. Catherine has already demonstrated her ability to do this through her sympathetic public appearances. Beyond the boundaries of the cathedral, this moment is significant. It represents a changing monarchy that strikes a balance between centuries-old customs and the needs of a modern, cynical society. A conscious move towards a royal family that values relatability and sincerity is evident in Catherine's ascent. She demonstrated a leadership style that is both personal and authoritative by choosing to lead with grace throughout the funeral, comforting family members and reading scriptures with quiet strength. There was more to this than granting the Duchess's request. King Charles and the Duke publicly expressed their trust in her, acknowledging her capacity to bring together destitute family branches in the face of recent difficulties, ranging from a health crisis to public scrutiny. This transition's emotional impact is what makes it so captivating. Catherine's own experience with health struggles and media storms is reminiscent of the Kent story, which is characterized by personal losses and resiliency. She creates a place where duty and humanity meet while providing comfort to a grieving duke by embracing their legacy. This action demonstrates the monarchy's flexibility and ability to change without losing its essence. It represents continuity for the Kents. For Catherine, it's a mantle that places her in the role as the family's operational and emotional center. The wider ramifications are remarkable. A future in which the monarchy depends on leaders who choose service above ostentation is hinted at by Catherine's higher position. Through their emphasis on family and mental health awareness, she and William have long supported this objective. This moment, which was the result of a difficult departure, reimagines the crown as a family bound together by more than just titles. What are your thoughts on this change, then? Does Catherine's new position risk upsetting tradition, or does it portend a more approachable royal era? Leave a comment below with your opinions. For more royal insights, subscribe, like, and share.